All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pastrami Nation podcast. We are the meat of pop culture. We lost one of our guys, but he'll be back. This happens to him a lot. It always
right
happens.
as we started.
Right when we start, and you'll see, it'll just happen at the most random of times. I'm your host, Kevin, and today we have a really, really fun show. We're going to be talking about some Obi Wan Kenobi. We're going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick, and we're going to be doing a really cool giveaway as well. All you got to do is leave a comment, like the post. Let's get Christian back here because Christian has the...
There we are. Oh, wow.
And there's Christian. We're going to be giving away a really cool G.I. Joe set, which we'll show off in a second. But first, I want to introduce some very, very special guests. There he goes again. Of course, with me sitting right here to my left, your right, is my very own son, Star Wars prodigy. This kid, if he put half of the effort he put in learning about Star Wars into his schoolwork, he might actually be passing his school. Elijah, how are you doing today? Good. Awesome. And we have a very special guest today, Mr. Brandon Treadway from the Cinemass podcast. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm great. I love being on this show with you guys. So I'm
awesome.
really
We're
happy
always
to be
happy
here.
to have you. And of course, let's get him back in here.
Sorry, guys.
There he is. And of course, we have Christian, godfather of toys, whatever you want to call him. I swear, man, you're like,
I'll take it.
It builds up every time we see you. You have like new toys.
Yeah, there's always something. He's back there now. You can see.
Oh, there he is up top.
Yeah. Oh my God, I was gonna say Master Chief. That's so weird. Optimus.
Have you transformed them yet?
I put him up there, and I had to get like a step ladder to put him up there. I haven't taken him down yet, and I'm like, I realized also I didn't post any pictures of it, so I'm like, I'll take it down and probably finally get around to transforming it.
Dude, check it out. If you guys want to know what we're talking about, Lego Optimus Prime. This guy's awesome. Go check out our last Brick Therapy episode where we talk about that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you already show off the G.I. Joe set that
I did not. So if you guys saw the flyer, we do have a freaking cool giveaway today. G.I. Joe Classified Snake Eyes and Timber. So pretty cool.
So cool.
Man, I would have wanted that.
Yeah. So you guys are. I don't know how we're gonna do it because Jason's not here yet. We don't have a virtual wheel that we normally have. So we might do a little draw a card thing.
Yeah. No, that totally works.
So. Yeah,
that totally works. And yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. Let's just dive right into it, guys. There's a lot to talk about, and I think I don't know if we're on the same page because I don't know if we've really talked about it off the air here. But let's just dive right into Obi Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
First off, spoiler warning if you have not seen it yet.
Spoiler warning if you have not seen it.
I think we
yet.
can say spoilers up until episode 4. So if you've seen part 4, you're good.
Absolutely. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about it. Brandon, I want to start with you. You have that awesome Last Jedi poster sitting right behind you. Talk about Obi Wan Kenobi. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Obi Wan Kenobi so far?
Let's see. Where do you want to start? I feel like there is so much to talk about in regards to Obi Wan Kenobi.
There is.
Not just the show itself. I think Star Wars at large. I think the ways in which fandom is interacting with it, both positive and negative. So, I mean, where do you want to start?
Yeah. So first, I actually, since you brought up the fandom, I really, really want to just make a really impassioned message out there. Obviously there's been a lot of hate towards a certain cast member of Obi Wan Kenobi, Moses Ingram, right? I believe that's her. Yeah. She plays.
Pretty sure it's third sister Reva.
Yes.
Reva,
Obi-Wan or Ewan McGregor himself had to come out and say, "Hey guys, like knock it off." And it's true. Like there's no place for hate in the Star Wars universe. And whether you like the character or not, that's a completely separate thing from something like
what we got with the US agent from Falcon and
Well, I was thinking more Rose from The Last Jedi. She was, basically, bullied off of the internet, and the same thing is happening to Moses. Pastrami Nation, everyone here, we're all, adamantly against any kind of bullying, any kind of prejudice. If you want to talk about the character, how you don't like her for any particular reason, that's fine. I personally, I just let's talk about her a little bit, right, and how she's been doing so far.
Mm-hmm.
I like her. I like her a lot. I like her character. I think she's a great villain. I feel like she's kind of, she has that mysterious backstory, which we don't really know a whole lot about. Personally, I think she's terrifying. And I think in all the right ways, right? I think she's her going after Obi Wan and all this stuff. We don't really know why, but I think she's just a fascinating villain. What do you guys think about? Let's talk about her performance specifically and her character. What are your guys' thoughts about her?
Yeah. So I like the character. To kind of touch on your point, I think that there is definitely a place there's a place for criticism of characters and of Star Wars and of performances. I think the hyper criticism that we're seeing in general right now tends to ignore that this is Star Wars, and Star Wars has always had performances that were some were amazing and some were, okay and passable. I think that, to touch on criticism of Moses Ingram specifically, it is not inherently racist or sexist to criticize a character.
It's not. It's not.
However, it does seem to me, and I don't think I'm the only one who feels this way, that there seems to be a somewhat higher hurdle that needs to be cleared for Moses Ingram in this case than it is for other actors and other characters on these shows in general.
Right.
I like her performance. Are there elements of it where I go, I didn't love that so much?
Like you said, it's Star Wars, right?
It's Star Wars. Absolutely. There's moments. But it is hard to not ignore. It is hard to ignore the elephant in the room, which is that this seems to continue to happen, particularly with women actors in Star Wars, and even more specifically, actors and actresses who are non-white. Right? If you look at Kelly Marie Tran, you look at John Boyega, you look at even Ahmed Best. You have these actors who are coming into Star Wars, and they seem to be held to a standard that is above and beyond what is seemingly required for everyone else. There are criticisms to be had, but there's a difference in saying this character is poorly written and has no place in the story, and has, I wrote down some criticisms that I saw word for word. And there's a difference in saying, this character is shoehorned into a story that she doesn't belong in, a quote, and saying, I'm on the fence on this character. I like her, but there are certain things that she does that I don't love. Some of that might be direction. Some of that might be her. So, there's those two criticisms are clearly coming from different places, and it's not out of the question to look at one of those and say there might be something a little bit more here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Christian, what are your thoughts?
I mean, like if we're talking about the whole Moses Ingram thing too. I know that she was on like a Queen's Gambit, and she had a couple other performances that were really well celebrated, and obviously that's what helped her get her role here. I think she's great. You know what I mean? I think maybe, and again, it's the idea that there's a difference between like criticism of a performance and criticism of a character, then as opposed to like bringing like race or gender into everything. I think maybe, man, this is gonna be hard to like. I think there were some character choices. Obviously, like the flipping around on like that second episode was like the front flip off of like she like force pushed something and then there was a weird a backflip, and I was like, why though? But that's not her fault. You know what I mean? Like that. That she's just doing what they're doing. I think there were some parts, especially her interaction with Uncle Owen in the first episode, like awesome,
great, totally,
fantastic, super intimidating. I think sometimes there are parts where like she comes off like it's like she wants to be like it's somebody putting on like a tough exterior, and maybe that has more to do with the character, right? I'm trying to be intimidating as opposed to just being intimidating. You know what I mean? But I think that can add to the character, considering that like she's really trying to prove herself.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think that Riva is a character who clearly is trying to prove herself as an Inquisitor in the first place,
Right.
right? We can see that she is an outcast to a certain extent. I believe that she is the Padawan from the very first scene of the very first
That's
episode,
what I was
right?
saying.
Yeah. If you
Right now.
rewatch it, you see that they actually focus on that little
on her.
girl twice. As the scene comes in and as the scene goes out, we focus on her just briefly. I think that it does make sense that she's trying to be more intimidating than she actually is. I think that there's conflict there, and that's what makes a good villain.
Right. I think, and I know I'm gonna. Ooh, you guys already know this. I kind of talked about this, and I feel like I caught flack for it. I was not a fan of the Boba Fett series. I feel like that was probably. I feel like I would have liked Boba Fett more had that series never happened. Right? If we just left it at what happened with the Mandalorian season and just left it there, I would have been like, I would like Boba Fett more. Mm-hmm. That being said, there were still some really cool things that happened. I'm liking Obi-Wan. I'm liking it so far. I think there are aspects of it, and I think it was a really tricky thing because they've already done like this like escort mission, like this like lone cub and wolf thing with like Mando and Grogu, and now they're doing it again. And of course they were going to do this. Like this only makes sense that they were going to do this story because we have like let's justify like help me Obi-Wan, here I am.
It's the only way that makes sense to get him off of Tatooine.
Right. I think I don't think any of us would have predicted that this was going to be a Princess Leia story going into this, like before the first episode. That being said, I'm not crazy about the little Princess Leia girl. It's weird to me that they casted somebody so young. She's supposed to be 10. She looks like she's like 5. I know she just turned 10 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I know there's been plenty of criticism online about like the chase scenes, but like, man, it's it's she runs like she just learned how to run like a couple weeks ago, like so it's adorable. And I know like I think they casted so young because they wanted to like have to capture people's hearts, and I think for the most part it worked. I think a lot of people love her. I'm like, and I get it, and she's sassy and everything, but I think she's really, really young, and I'm like, maybe we should have gone with 10.
She is really young, and she seems really young, but I think, I think the father instinct in me makes me really like her because
I love her.
I think she's I love her too. And it's so interesting because she obviously who she grows up to be, and
right.
It's the same character. Like you can totally see her growing up to be Leia, right? Like it makes sense that this little girl is going to be Leia someday. Just her sassiness and her, her just I love all of it. The way she just doesn't take anything from anyone, and she remains that way her whole life.
Yeah.
And I think her performance is great too. I think it's adorable. Like you said, I think she's and having to work, because she has a lot. She's carrying the show. I mean, obviously it's Obi-Wan's show, right? But we have to care about her. Like if we don't care about a character, even though we know who she becomes, but we have to care about her in the show too in order for the show to work. Right. And I feel like her scenes against Obi-Wan and against Riva,
yeah.
Sorry, my brain is. And against Riva, especially that scene, the interrogation scene. Like I thought she was really good in that scene. Like I thought that scene, like she looked like she was about to break.
I love the Anakin that came out in her when she goes, "Is this a staring contest?" That's such Anakin stuff to do,
It is.
And not many people can actually like hold up to forced interrogation like that. Like we see it with Cad Bane in the Clone Wars. It took 3 Jedi just to get into his mind.
Right.
And even then it was very difficult for them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about Ewan McGregor. Let's talk about Ewan McGregor. Has he lost a step? Is he still Obi-Wan? Is he still is he carrying it for you guys? Is this the Obi-Wan that you guys thought he would be right now? Like obviously in the timeline of the story, is the way things are progressing is everything.
I'm gonna let Christian go first on this one.
Yeah. I'm curious what you guys think.
I love it. I think I saw a funny meme, and it's like it showed like a bunch of people sitting on the couch, like cheering, and then it's like people watching a man dealing with like 10 years of trauma and like PTSD, and yeah, I think Ewan's doing a great job. I love like Ewan McGregor, obviously. He's doing a fantastic job. He's like a broken Obi Wan, like dealing with this guilt, like all the weight of like what happened, in episode 3, and like. Finally, I guess like being forced to come to terms with everything. You know what I mean? I think if it wasn't for the events of like what's happening now, he would just keep doing this and like just kind of sulking or whatever. I love his performance. It's exciting to see. So I will say this last episode was probably my favorite. Aside from the first one, because I really loved the first episode also. I love like the kind of like throwbacks, not maybe necessarily throwbacks, but a kind of callback to Jedi Fallen Order too. Like I don't know, a lot of that just felt like the last, not spoilers, I guess, for the game, but like the end of that game. So, which is really cool. I know like there's like a very like timeline wise, I think we're like overlapping here. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, I know it kind of bums me out to see him like, because there's so many times I'm like, just use the Force, dude. Use the Force, like, and he doesn't use it. So I'm like, I get it, because he's trying to hide it as well as I think he might just be out of practice. So, but yeah,
I think something that's important to remember is that a Jedi's ability to use the Force, it's not like a video game. I think that a lot of Star Wars fans try and like attach the video game aspect of like you train until you reach a certain level and then you have these abilities once you reach that level, right? But being a Jedi is not like that. Your ability to use the Force does not depend on your training hardly at all. You don't train to learn how to Force push. You don't train to learn how to Force pull. What you train to do as a Jedi is you train to remove yourself from the equation, to open your mind and allow you to use the Force. There's a reason why Yoda tells Luke on Dagobah that only in your mind is it impossible, right? To pull the X-Wing out of the swamp, right? And he's like, judge me by my size, do you? He's like, it's not the fact that I don't have to be anything other than who I am. If I can open my mind and allow the Force to flow through me, right? My point in this is that Obi-Wan's at a place where he has a mental block, right? Of his PTSD, of the Clone War, of what he did to Anakin, that he left him there to die, right? And he's had to live with the idea that he left his best friend and, adopted brother essentially to die from 3rd-degree burns on Mustafar. He just left him there, right? And so he's having to deal with that all this time. Meanwhile, his entire religion has been wiped out. He's realized that a lot of what he believed was a lie. And so he's having to deal with all these things. That's a lot of mental weight to weigh on someone. And it's very difficult, for anyone that struggles with depression or anxiety. I mean, think about how easy is it for you when your anxiety and depression and all those things are weighing on you to just simply let go and, think freely, correct?
Oh, it's not. Yeah.
Right. And so for him, he's having to find something to tap into to believe in himself again. And it's requiring Leia believing in him in order for him to find that belief in himself. I love that scene. It's probably my favorite scene, my favorite moment in the entire series so far, where she asks him, what is the Force feel like? He's like, when you turn a light on, that's what it feels like. And it was such a beautiful little line, but it's so true, because the Force itself, balance in the Force, is not equal light, equal dark. It is simply just light, right? And so because the Force is light. So I'm loving that aspect of his character, and I love that we're watching him find himself again, just like we did in The Last Jedi, that we saw Luke, who had the same thing. His connection to the Force was turned off because of the mistake he made. The depression that he went through after his mistake broke him off from the Force, and he had to find someone that believed in himself again so that he could believe in himself and realize that his mistake doesn't define him. It's how he reacts and approaches that mistake and moves forward. So a lot of comparisons to draw between Obi-Wan and Luke, and honestly Yoda, and there always has been, but I like that this is highlighting that more.
Right, absolutely. What are your thoughts
on Ewan?
Yeah, on Ewan as Obi-Wan. So I think it's interesting here. I feel like we have a few different generations here who grew up differently with the Star Wars prequel trilogy, right? So like, y'all are a little bit younger than me. I mean, I'm gonna be 42. I don't know how old you guys are, but like when what's that?
Nothing.
when the prequels came out, like, you know, I had already, you know, I was into my, you know, 20s or whatever, you know, so it was a different experience for me than I think a lot of people.
You had been just 19 when the prequel started.
19, yeah. But it was, you know, I'd already, you know, I was already, you know, figuring out my film criticism theory, you know, like what I liked, what I didn't like. So when the prequels came out, I didn't not like them to not like them. I just it didn't feel like Star Wars to me, right? Like that's the whole thing. But Ewan was always the best part of it. But it's interesting to see the different points of view, you know, because this kid grew up like the prequels are his favorite ones, right? So like that's what, you know,
sequels, not so much.
Sequels, not so much. The sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it's interesting. The ones that kind of come out in that time period that you're a kid and the most impressionable, that tends to be your Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Right? There's people in between the prequels and the sequels who, for them, it's Clone Wars,
right,
or the prequels. And in some cases, I know a couple of kids who, they don't like the other ones so much as they like the sequel trilogy. So it all just depends on kind of what
does.
Right. I think for me, because, you know, I'm turning 40 this year, and I kind of feel like I was in the same place as you, Kevin, when the prequels were coming out. I was excited to see them. I saw them all, like, I think, like, opening night, but you know, I still have like a lot of criticism for it. But I think now, like, after the time has passed and going back, like, I can like really appreciate the prequels for what they are, or, you know, what they're supposed to be. I love hearing like Filoni's like interpretation of like things, like hearing him explain like the Duel of Fates. It's like, wow, it's so eye opening, and it's really cool to hear. And like whoever put that like previously on Star Wars, like at the beginning of Obi-Wan, that little 5-minute montage of the prequels. Edited. Oh, amazing! Like that person deserves a bonus or something. That was incredible. Just really, really well done.
For every single project he's on after.
Absolutely, he should be on point editing jobs. So yeah, it's it's still, I think I love like the episode 3 best of all of those things, but every episode has their redeeming qualities. You know, I love like, the Duel of Fates.
So let's talk about obviously the, you know, I think the reason a lot of people are watching this is to see the, you know, the Anakin and Obi-Wan
Hayden is back
reunion. What have been your guys' thoughts on that so far? Are you guys, you know, has it clicked with you guys? That whole storyline, is that, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
So I was very worried, and part of me hoped that they would not meet, and that it would be kind of meeting more so inside of his own mind,
right?
As he's dealing with the trauma of what has happened. But I have to say that it's worked for me so far. I know that there are people out there who expected this to be an Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader series,
right?
And that we're going to focus on the two of them, you know, chasing each other through the galaxy or whatever. And honestly, I think I would have not enjoyed that as much. For one, it doesn't make as much sense canonically, but also I think that I'm not saying this is for everybody, right? You know, there are some people who came into this show and they wanted to see a fight, and I think we're going to get that, you know, but it's not yet, right? We needed Obi-Wan to face Vader and realize and have that great exchange, right? What have you become? And he says, "I am what you made me." Great line. I thought he was going to say, you know, "What have you become?" I thought he was going to say more, but that was a better line. You know, "I am what you made me." That's even better. But I think for some Star Wars fans, as I've seen on like TikTok, as I've seen on Twitter, there's some people that want plot and there's some people that want story.
Right. Absolutely.
And there's no knock either way here. But I think for a lot of people, a lot of Star Wars fans, especially the ones that have been very, very deep in Star Wars for a long time and know a lot of trivia and know all those things, I think over time they kind of tend to become more plot-focused Star Wars fans.
Right.
In the sense that I just want to know what planets we're going to, what creatures are there, who's there, what happens. Just give me the plot points so that I know the trivia. I want to collect the trivia in my mind, and I want to know everything that happens so that I can, repeat them or win trivia games. And I love Star Wars trivia. But I think the ones that came into this, if you came into this wanting to watch Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader for 6 episodes, try to look at the story. There's plot, there's story. The plot may not be that they fight for 6 episodes, but the story I think we're getting is far more rich, and it benefits the characters more. Darth Vader is not a character that we watch on screen for very long. In the entire original trilogy, 6.5 hours of film, he was only on screen for 34 minutes. Vader is more of an impending doom, impending presence. He is a shadow that hangs over Star Wars. He's not someone that's front and center the entire time. And I think that I feel that in this. Just his existence is hurting Obi-Wan, right? The way that he saw Anakin in that vision when they were on that, kind of like field planet. I can't remember the name of it. And so for me, I'm far more interested in rather than seeing Obi-Wan and Vader fight, I'm far more interested in how does the realization that Anakin is still alive after he thought he was dead, how does that impact him? How is that holding him back or moving him forward? And I like what we're getting far more than if it was just 6 episodes of fighting.
Absolutely.
Right. No, yeah, I'm with you 100%. I don't want people to mistake. Like, I have my feelings about like the little girl playing Leia, but I still think I'm enjoying it. All of this is great. I love the backstory that we're getting. Like the end of the last episode when they're holding hands. So good. And it just makes and what this should do as a prequel, what any prequel should do, should make the things that it's a prequel to richer. Right? I should be able to like go back, watch episode 4, and just like, so you know what I mean?
It's like, telling us why Leia reached out to Obi-Wan.
Right. So beautifully, I think
it's perfect.
Because there's so much relationship there now that we didn't see, obviously, and it's kind of nice to lay retcon in this way. I love that about it. I think the same thing. I didn't think we were going to see them fight in that last episode. Like that was kind of crazy. It was a little confusing what happened, but like, cool. That's cool. I like this journey that we're on to see like his healing process.
When you say confusing, are you talking about
like just like the whole thing with the fire, and then I think there was like the whole thing with Reva going into the tunnel, and then like Leia, and I can't remember what the person that was helping them, the spy that was helping them. It was just really confusing. I was like, I get it in the end what was happening, but like,
what was happening?
Yeah, but like just technically, like, wait, where, like, how did the fire turn off, and like what was happening exactly? But it's fine. I still get it for like the story reasons. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really loved this last episode, and I'm excited to see. I'm sad that there's only 2 episodes left. And yeah, I would say of all the Disney Plus stuff, this was probably like one of the shows that I was like really, really, really looking forward to, because I'm like, if there's a show that I feel like we need that's not just like a money grab, like this is we've all wanted to see this. You know what I mean? Like those years in between with Obi-Wan, like it's a fan favorite from if you love the prequels or if you love the original trilogy. So
absolutely. I think a lot of people are loving it so far. Of course, the consensus, don't look on Rotten Tomatoes because you'll see all the review bombs and all that stuff happening. But
grow up, nerds. Grow up.
Grow up, nerds. Exactly.
Stop review bombing stuff that you don't like.
Exactly. So I know we could talk about this all day, but let's give. So like, let's say these 4 episodes, what you've seen is what you get. so far, what would you rate Obi Wan Kenobi out of 5? I know it's an unfinished story. We don't have everything. But if you were to rate it, okay, let's do this. Let's compare it to Mandalorian Season 1, Boba Fett Season 1. Where would it land on your rankings so far if you had to rank those 3 shows? Season 1 of each one.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Right.
Mando, because it's the Mandalorian and we get Baby Yoda. And then Obi-Wan.
Grogu.
As much as I like that name, I'm gonna
No, go for it.
And then Obi-Wan, because we get young Leia and of course Obi-Wan. Sad that the fights, the whatever lightsaber fights we got weren't up to expectation. And then Boba Fett.
Okay, cool. What about you guys? What you guys got?
I'm the same order. I love the Mandalorian. As simple as the show is, when you break it down, I love like the Mandalorian. I love all the performances there. I love the whole Grogu Baby Yoda interaction. Like it's great. I love those 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett. I kind of wish they just saved that for like the next season of Mandalorian.
Yeah, same.
Because like that was cool to put that in there, but man, that would have just been better like as the first 2 episodes. But I guess they had to have them there, so that's fine. And then I would say, I'm loving this already. Like really, really loving this. Not already. We're in the 4th episode. You know how I feel about Book of Boba Fett. I wasn't the biggest fan, so
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
I think I'd go. This is actually tougher than you'd think.
No, yeah, it is.
I think I would probably give a slight edge to Mandalorian Season 1. I think that despite how much I am enjoying Obi-Wan, I think that the production quality is just slightly better.
It is.
I also think that the performances come out on top a little bit more simply because we have more things hiding them, right? We have like helmets and we have like Mandalorian armor and stuff, and so there's a little bit more places to hide the bad performances. But overall, I think I would say Mandalorian Season 1 is probably the best thing that we've gotten on Disney Plus that's live action Star Wars.
Yeah.
I would say Obi-Wan right now for me would be number 2. And if they had kept the rhythm of the first 3 episodes of Boba Fett,
right,
I think Boba Fett could potentially have been my favorite thing on Disney Plus if they had kept what they had going in the first 3 episodes. I think they derailed Boba Fett with the Mandalorian stuff. I liked the Mandalorian stuff, don't get me wrong. But when I loved that we had this story of Boba who was learning that there was a different way to do things by working with the people essentially whose land everyone had stolen, and he learned the way to commune with nature on Tatooine,
right,
and that he had become essentially a Tusken Raider, and that he had learned a new way to be a leader and new way of leadership and how to the right way to enact revenge. And then the Mandalorian stuff came in and it was great. And then we just kind of like forgot what happened in the first 3 episodes. And then it turns into kind of what it ends up being, which is fine. But I think that it kind of stumbles to the finish line there. So yeah, I'd go Mando, Obi-Wan, Boba Fett.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my ranking as well. For a lot of the same reasons. I really enjoyed the first season of Mandalorian a lot. Obi-Wan has been hitting all the right notes for me, and production value isn't as high as I was kind of hoping it would be, but it still has some amazing stuff in it. And Book of Boba Fett, number 3.
Can we? I just want to talk real quick about the Inquisitors, like temple.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that hall? Like we said, there's spoilers for episode 4 here. So what do you think about the hallway? That is
gigantic, like
it's like basically like a hunting throne or a hunting trophy room, right?
That! Oh my god! Okay, yeah.
What do you think about
that? I think it makes no sense. They were trying to send a message or something. They would have gotten the message out and then just killed the people.
So
not freeze them in like some sort of cryo.
So I don't think that they're frozen in cryo. So what we do know is that the Grand Inquisitor kept Luminaria Unduli. Luminara Unduli on and basically utilized her like spirit or bones or whatever to attract other Jedi in order to trap them. So it makes sense to me that they could potentially be kind of doing the same thing. It seems that we have Tera Sinube, who is in that throne room, who kind of oversaw the younglings at the Jedi Temple.
That.
What's that?
I wasn't really happy when I saw that.
Yeah, I have to imagine that he probably died protecting the younglings at the temple. But we focused on a couple other characters, but one in particular. Do you think that this is Ice Cube's son's wife?
I know that was a little distracting. Cameos this season. Go ahead, man. Like, what do you think, Eli?
I don't really know because I haven't really seen a whole lot of stuff with Ice Cube's son in it.
No, we're talking about the character, right? So, do you think that that's his wife in there?
No.
What do you guys think?
I think it's an odd direction choice.
It would be.
If we're not going to call back to her in any other way, it seems odd that she and Tera Sinube are like the two that we really focused on.
Right.
There was that youngling, but I think that that's just representative of all the younglings that have been killed by Vader and the Inquisitors. But we got that close-up shot on this one woman's face.
Right.
So I do think it's interesting, and it does make me think, at least from a direction standpoint, if I'm a director and I'm going to focus on something like that, right? It's almost like Chekhov's gun, right?
Right.
If you're going to show a gun, it better go off. You
Right.
better have a reason for why you're showing things. So if you're going to do a close-up on a character's face like that, are you going to pay that off in any way? And we did have him kind of allude to his wife being a Jedi.
Right.
So
Could be. Yeah, I totally forget. Ice Cube's son. Man, there's a lot of cameos in the show too.
He also did refer to Obi-Wan as General, which is interesting.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so he calls him General. So was he also a Jedi at some point? Does it's been 10 years. Does Obi-Wan not recognize him?
Right.
Whereas he is being recognized by, I can't remember his name, but O'Shea Jackson Jr. did say some interesting things on Twitter about his character, saying like, just wait till they see what I can do.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see.
There we go. Yeah, I hope. I mean, I'm assuming that we're going to see him for more than one episode. We got a couple of I think in the first episode it was oh my god, like Benny Safdie or his brother Josh Safdie, I think.
Yeah, that was Benny. Yeah,
and then we had Kumail Nanjiani in the second episode. I know there's been like a ton of other ones that I'm forgetting at the moment, but I don't know. I totally didn't catch that. He called Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I didn't catch it either.
That's pretty significant. So
the general part.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So it'll be interesting.
Some Jedi did also have some non-clone troopers, like the Jedi that we have to fight in Force Unleashed. He had his whole army or battalion, whatever they called it. He didn't conscript to the clone troopers. He went in with a fully human army.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also know that, you have these cells of people that are kind of pre-rebellion, right? Saw Gerrera is a good example of this.
Right.
So
the Ghost Crew.
Yeah, so you have kind of these people that are in these like little pockets. The question is, did he have some kind of interaction with him? And if it doesn't, if that's not the case, and he just knows that Obi-Wan was a general, that makes sense too. So I just thought that was really interesting that he was like, "Oh, general." I can't remember what he said after that, but I do remember him referring to him as general.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. Well, we'll definitely.
Unless I'm wrong, maybe it didn't happen. And in my mind, I was like, "Did he just go general?"
I'm sure he remembers it too.
He said, "Generally, you should go in and do this." And I picked.
Yeah, so you guys, if you guys haven't checked out Obi Wan Kenobi yet, we just spoiled it all for you. You're watching.
Yeah, you're all caught up now. Go check.
You're all caught up.
Right.
Like you guys are good to go.
What do you think? Sorry, I know that you're trying to move away from this.
No,
What are
you're
your
fine.
thoughts on the weekly release schedule? Do you feel like it's? I mean, Christian, I know you wanted to kind of talk about Stranger Things. This is kind of an interesting little segue into
Yes,
that.
perfect.
You have Obi-Wan that is running the weekly release schedule. We're 4 weeks in, 3 weeks now, right? 4 episodes over 3 weeks. And you have Stranger Things that dropped all 7 episodes at once.
Yeah.
How many conversations have you had about Obi-Wan Kenobi versus conversations that you've been able to have about Stranger Things?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and from what I hear, like Netflix is thinking about changing to a weekly release.
They should do that for
That's what
part
they did
2.
with Arcane.
Yeah.
And a couple other anime.
Yeah, they did. They released Arcane, I think, 3 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
By the way, Arcane, if you guys haven't seen Arcane, oh my god,
amazing.
I haven't watched it
And they
yet.
did it
oh, it's so good.
like
It's-
a week.
I just really quickly because now I'm getting sidetracked. Arcane is brilliant. It's way better than anybody asked it to be. I don't play League. People that play League, they're like, don't think you should start playing it after that. Like that's
Don't
fine.
play it. I played it all
Yeah.
through college. Don't play it.
But my god, that was incredible. Yeah, I think Stranger Things deserves the thing about releasing everything all at once. It's like it leaves the lexicon like quickly. Like people are like done talking about it. After a couple of weeks. By doing the weekly release, like at least you're guaranteeing people are going to talk about it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long your thing is. So, I think something like Stranger Things deserves like more talk. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I believe me, if you release something like that, I'm going to watch it all in one sitting. I can't help myself, but I would pace it out for me. I can't control this.
Yeah, it's hard to have conversations about Stranger Things as opposed to Obi-Wan, right? Because it's so easy to watch 2 episodes of something versus 7.
Right.
And they dropped the same weekend. So I had all these conversations with people about Obi-Wan on Facebook and on Twitter and in person, and I haven't really had a chance to talk to anyone besides my wife who watched Stranger Things with me about Stranger Things. And it's because you don't really know like who's seen what and how far. And every time I go to talk to someone, they're like, "Oh, I'm only on episode 5. I'm only on episode 4." You know, like they're not quite to the point where you can talk openly about the whole thing.
Right.
Well, something like go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I really hope that Netflix wakes up and realizes that the zeitgeist and the mind share that they are losing to shows that come out on a weekly basis. My hope is that they can build up the finale of Stranger Things by doing a weekly release and building up to this big drop for the final episode that everyone can watch and then talk about.
So from what I know, it's only 2 episodes.
Oh, really? It's just 2?
There's 2, and I think the last one is like 2.5 hours or something. So it's like
I was reading though, but this is going to be season 4, part 2.
Yeah.
But I've been reading everywhere that they're talking about a time jump for season 5.
Are they doing a season 5?
At least that's what I read.
I kind of want it to end here. Like I feel like this is like the perfect ending because it all kind of ties back. So
I think so too, and I think just real quick,
5.
Yeah,
confirms a time jump.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Do it for season 5 then.
But no, I agree. I think a weekly release keeps it in the conversation and it keeps it more exciting. Like you were saying, like I can go up to someone and be like, "Hey, you watch Obi-Wan yesterday?" And I know where they're at in the series. Stranger Things or something. And I've had a couple conversations about Stranger Things, but like it's not in the, if you're on Twitter, right? People are talking about Obi-Wan today because it dropped yesterday. But Stranger Things happened that weekend. I haven't heard a word about it since like that Monday or Tuesday.
My whole TikTok feed is for the last week.
Oh yeah, like
it's been
Kate
all
Bush.
Stranger Things. Yeah,
that Kate Bush song over and over. You can't escape it.
I know.
My daughter is just obsessed with that song right now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But yeah, so we can talk about Stranger Things a little bit right now.
Man.
I mean, we have a lot to talk about.
Right. We won't like. I mean, let's at least talk about it.
I mean, I'm good, baby. I mean, how long you guys want to go?
I know. I got time. We're good.
I thought we were on a time crunch. I could talk about Obi-Wan for another hour.
No, hey, we can totally cool by me. I don't mind. Yeah, this kid he'll
let's talk Stranger Things. I like that.
Yeah. So
are we just gonna full blown like
spoilers?
Like, are we just gonna talk openly about the season?
Not Stranger Things.
Yeah. So we'll talk.
4.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it more tomorrow night, but we can talk about it a little bit tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, so you guys. So yeah. Is there another show you guys are doing Stranger Things?
Join us. I think.
We'll talk about it in a little bit here. But yeah. So what do you guys think of the season as a whole? Are you guys on board with where it's going? That these kids look like they're in their 30s at this point, and they're personally, I thought it was really, really well done. I thought that they handled the ages of the characters. I was talking to my wife about it. I'm like, look, like you look at pictures of, people in high school in like the 80s, they look like they're full grown, 40-year-old men with like mustaches and beards. This is nothing. Like, this is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, almost, I know it's a different age, but people just looked older back then,
The
whole cast of Cheers was in their 30s.
Yeah.
Early 30s. Like,
dude, isn't that crazy? But what do you guys think about the season? Well, I guess season so far, I guess you can say.
The hype wasn't there when it started for me. I think there was like a 3-year gap between like the last season and this season. So when it dropped, I was like, oh, cool. Okay. I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait. It was one of those things, again, my girlfriend and I just kind of put it on. Let's watch an episode really quick. 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, like how many hours later, we finished it the next day. We binged the whole goddamn thing. Like we woke up early to continue watching it. I loved it. I think it was like just probably some of the best television this year, if not for a while. Just like what the Duffer Brothers do. And also, like, I would say probably my favorite season since the first season. I loved the third season. I like parts of the second season. But yeah, what they did this season is just like fantastic. That fourth episode, I had me in tears. Like, literally, I was in tears at the end of that. Beautifully done. Like, really loving the show so far.
Yeah. I really liked this season. I'm going to agree with you that this is probably the best season since season 1, which is kind of untouchable TV in my opinion. Like, that first season just came out of nowhere, and it's pretty much perfect. I'm also right there with you in that I was not like crazy hyped for this. Just it'd been 3 years. I'm a different man now. A lot more wear and tear on me. Am I really excited to jump into a nostalgic, 80s like monster show again? Like what are they fighting this time? Another version of a Demogorgon.
This time it's an overpowered version of a Demogorgon. It's really overpowered.
That is true.
That's right. And yeah, this one was full of vodka. But I do think that this was a really strong season. It's cool how the horror of the show is kind of progressing with these kids. Like, as they get older and more mature, the horrors that they are facing are also more mature, right? You go from like this imaginary monster that comes in, scares them and attacks them or whatever, but now it's actual trauma and it's actual like danger and emotional distress and the suffering of losing a brother. Like, those are gateways in which the villain is able to access you. And that's terrifying. As an adult, it's scarier than a Demogorgon, right? The fact that like your mental weakness is a gateway or portal through which a demon can enter you and kill you. Like, it's great. I like that this is a villain that I feel like I can feels more tangible to me than the Mind Flayer in season 2 and whatever the thing was in season 3. Like,
still the Mind Flayer.
Was that the Mind Flayer? Yeah, like you could tell. It's like season 2 and 3 for me was kind of like, I forget it. I don't forget season 1.
No,
season 1. No. Yeah, and so this time, I think that this was a stronger, a more strongly written season.
Mhm.
I think that the final episode faltered a little bit in terms of its narrative and script. I think that it took some shortcuts in order to kind of unveil itself a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to spoil anything because I know you guys have another show tomorrow. But I think that it tried to unveil itself in a way that spoke to so that everyone could just get it. Whereas I felt like they had an opportunity to show us that and have us slowly realize that through Nancy's experience in the Upside Down.
Right.
Rather than a 15-minute long monologue. But
Right.
I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really cool, and I'm really excited to see how this thing ends.
Yeah.
Because I have not been this excited for Stranger Things since season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and the other thing too, really quickly, Stranger Things, I think, exclusively has this ability to introduce new characters. Like, that's a tricky thing when you start a new season and like, oh, we got a new character, because like not everybody digs that, and just time after time, they've just like fan favorites, like Eddie. How everybody loves Eddie now. You know, Robin last season, Max, like you know, they can just keep adding to these, and they just know how to write their characters. I think it's incredible, like really well done.
I like
Yeah,
how
their characterizations are good.
Yeah.
I like how all the older people are calling, like all the older students and Steve, they're all calling like Lucas and Dustin by like their last names, like Sinclair and Henderson.
Yeah. Is that what they do in high school now?
No.
I know high school.
I dig the very clever how they've kind of worked in Satanic Panic into this.
Yes.
Brilliant.
I mean, it was kind of inevitable with how heavily this show leans on Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
which like Dungeons and Dragons is kind of like the core of Satanic Panic, right?
Yeah.
It is.
And so it's been really cool to watch them utilize that time period in that way to kind of like inflict the characters with like a sense of villainy to the townspeople.
Right.
And I hope that they don't forget that in part 2. Like, I hope we get to see more of like these overzealous religious townspeople who have been awoken by what's his name, Jason?
Yeah, Jason, the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about the allusions that this show has done to other horror? Like, we had a Silence of the Lambs tribute when they went to go see, and we had Robert Englund in there.
So cool. So cool.
This season has done some really cool like odes to like classic horror.
This one's
Carrie, obviously too.
Yeah,
which one?
Carrie with
Carrie. Obviously, Michael Myers has been a massive. You know, ever since Max, had that Michael Myers costume in season 2.
Yeah,
she was Michael Myers for Halloween. That's season 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, season 2. But yeah, I love that horror homage stuff. I thought that was really, really well done.
Slow walk from Vecna and the Upside Down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was weird too. It was kind of funny. Like again, spoilers, guys. So, but the very end when Nancy ended up down there with Vecna, right? I called it at the beginning of the episode. I was like, all right, because I had this feeling somebody was going to die or something was going to happen to somebody. And I was like, Nancy has to be down there with him. And they're like, why? I'm like, I'm very proud of this theory, by the way. I was like, look, well, they're playing off of these tropes, right? So like, obviously Vecna's had this whole Freddy Krueger vibe the whole time. And just like, her being Nancy, I was like, it just kind of made sense for the vibe they were going for in the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And his area of the Upside Down being all red.
Yeah. I was like, it has
the
to be
boiler
Nancy and him at the end. Like, that was my thing. I was like, she's the ultimate or one of the ultimate final girls. And
that's a good call.
I just thought I was that one.
Good call.
But yeah, it's gonna be good. What's up?
I was gonna say, so since we're just gonna talk about the end, then
full
blown. I mean,
we're not gonna talk about Maverick.
We will. We got that. Yeah.
We'll talk about it. What did you think about the way that the show handled the Vecna reveal?
I think they did it amazingly. Well, not amazingly, but pretty good.
Yeah, I thought So there was some stuff in this season that I felt was a little bit just drawn out, right? Like I felt like a lot of that 11 stuff was just kind of like, whenever she was in there with Brenner and stuff like that, I was kind of like, and like I started to get bored at times, not going to lie. And same with the Hopper
when
stuff.
when she's back at the hospital.
Yeah, when she's back at the hospital.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I don't think
but
they use that as economically as they think they did.
Yeah, right? I don't think so either. And I think that the reveal at the end made it all worth it. Like, how he became Vecna and everything. Obviously, yeah, we had to see all that for it to make sense, how she would just totally lose it on him and create this other creature. So I thought that was handled really well. Throughout the season, it was a little, like I said, it was a little daunting, but I felt like it turned out really well. What were your guys' thoughts?
I think the only complaint I would say I have about Vecna, because I really love Vecna. I think that it's a great villain. I like his design. My wife pointed out that he kind of looks like the Grinch a little bit. Is like the way that his like kind of like belly kind of like if you see like a full body shot, he kind of has like a Grinch vibe to him. But I really like I love the Vecna thing. I love how he kills people, all that stuff. I think that they could have handled one a little bit better, and I think that they could have done that by utilizing him more
throughout.
Right. He only showed up every once in a while, and by the time he was like helping her leave, like I was just too suspicious of him.
Yeah,
but I wish that they would have used him more effectively by having him go out of his way to defend her more often, right? If he had broken up the fight with with those kids pushing her, if he had broken up that fight, if he had been kind of doing more things for her on the side and coming to her and not being as creepy as he was always like, there are ways that you can, whatever he said, like,
yeah,
if you're trying to get it in 3, like if he had just been a lot more of not so creepy, but just like a kind person, that switch would have blown me out of the water.
Same.
I would have been so shocked by it, but it would have fit narratively into the entire thing where he needed to trick someone in there who was strong enough to get him out.
Right.
And I think it would have thrown me more for a loop. And I also wish that he would not have just stood there for 10 minutes and just told 11 his entire life story.
Yeah.
Where we had Nancy down in the Upside Down witnessing it herself. Mm-hmm. So I think that I wish that we just could have gotten that reveal slowly through Nancy.
Absolutely.
And her experience in the Upside Down. That would have been way cooler for me personally. But
I totally agree with you. Show not tell, like that's classic. Yeah. So I realized it's like he's while it was happening, I'm like, oh, but I'm like in my head, I'm like, he's monologuing. Like, you're aware of it, but I'm like, I want the information. So
yeah, like, can you imagine if as she was pulling out the like vial in his neck, that it cut to Nancy watching him put his mom up in the air?
Yeah.
That would have been our like big reveal, is that like, oh shoot, she just pulled this thing out of his neck. Oh shoot, he's back here. This kid is killing people in the same way that like that would have drawn the parallels, and it would have been its own big reveal right there. I think would have been really cool. I've got goosebumps right now thinking about it.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're going to be having a big Stranger Things extravaganza dropping next week on our paranormal podcast. So look out for that, guys. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to be getting more in depth into it and stuff like that. We're talking about nostalgia. We're talking about the 80s. Let's talk best segue.
Let's talk about Jurassic Park.
No, plenty of that talk. Well, probably next podcast. But let's talk about Top Gun Maverick. Probably, I mean, it's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. Like easily, there are certain movies, Everything Everywhere All at Once is still my ultimate favorite so far.
Agreed.
That movie's going to be super hard to knock off of the top spot.
Have you seen RRR yet?
No, I actually saw your review of it, and I was like,
that's the only movie that's nudging at
I'm gonna
everything
watch that
everyone
this,
wants.
Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna watch that this weekend. But I've heard it's great. But yeah, that's gonna be there. But what do you guys think about Top Gun Maverick? I know there's a lot to dig into. It sucks.
I think I've mentioned this before. I didn't grow up with the original. The first time seeing the original for me was a couple of weeks ago. And the whole reason I watched it was to watch Maverick. So we were sitting there watching it, and like the first 30 minutes, I was like my girlfriend loves it. You know, I think that was a big part of like her youth growing up. And like the first 30 minutes of the original movie, I'm like, so I like what is I just don't get it. And she was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's just I felt like the movie before like the big thing happens. I'm like, it's just a bunch of cool guys doing cool guy shit. Like
we can talk about it, by the way. It's the spoilers are fine for the first Top Gun.
Right.
It only came out 500 years ago.
I know. So luckily,
you just saw it. But...
I know. I did not know about the goose thing. So like when it happened, they're like, leave him in the water. I was like, what? I was like no. I was like, I turned to my girlfriend. She's like, wait, you didn't know? I'm like, I've never seen this. She's like, I thought everybody knew about Goose. And I was like, wait, dude. And then it just like knowing that Miles Teller was playing his son. Like we hadn't seen Maverick yet, so I was like, I cannot wait to see Top Gun Maverick, because like what a perfect way to kind of pick up the story. Really, really cool. But yeah,
Brandon. Yeah. This is easily one of the best movies of the year. For me, it's top 3, along with Everything Everywhere All at Once and RRR. And it's probably one of the best action movies of the last decade. Absolutely. It's right up there with Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible movies. And this is in the pantheon of one of the best sequels of all time. This is up there with Aliens, Empire Strikes Back, Spider-Man 2, The Dark Knight, Paddington 2, Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Absolutely. This is in the the best sequels of all time. And I think that this rivals Road Warrior for probably the best increase in quality from first film to second film. Top Gun 1 is fine.
Exactly.
Like it's fine. It's fun. I think it's just one of those movies that like if you grew up with it, like there are people who it's their favorite movie of all time. No, hey, we all have our favorites, right? But this movie just blows the first one out of the water by every single metric. It is so good. It's hard to just not say it's perfect. Right. It's hard to say that.
It is. I think there are like a handful of movies that you can kind of put, like no movie is perfect, but some movies get damn close. I would put probably Fury Road in there. Amelie, I would probably put Amelie in there because I love that movie. There's Amelie? Amelie's, love that movie.
Amazing.
I feel like it's too soon for me to say, but yeah, I would put that in the like almost perfect category.
It's really close. The only thing for me is that there's just a little bit of pacing in the middle where I go, okay, all right. Like the Jennifer Connelly stuff, first off, but she like her character's not as fully realized as she is just dragging a character out of through her performance. She's just like, make this character real. So some of the stuff in the middle kind of drags, but for maybe 5-10 minutes. But then we're right back in the pilot seat and we're going. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Is it like shock anybody else? This is Tom Cruise's very first $100 million opening?
This is his biggest opening. Yeah.
Like, is that like for some reason? Like, I just assumed it was like Mission Impossible. At least one of the Mission Impossibles. I would think had hit that mark before, but no.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you have to keep in mind is like $100 million openings are like unheard of for like 95% of his career.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's just. I don't know. I think it could.
But it is crazy. I can't believe that Fallout didn't have that. I wonder how close Fallout got.
That's what I thought. Like I had assumed that it was going to be a Mission Impossible movie, especially Fallout. Fallout had that big opening. It had that huge following. But yeah, like it's just this is his very first one, and that still shocks me to no end.
So I think it also broke the record for the least amount of money lost on the second week. Like usually
drop.
Yeah, 33% drop. Usually it's like 60 or 50% like that, and that's considered good. Yeah, awesome. Good for him.
Also, Memorial Day weekend is notoriously an impossible weekend to release a film.
It is.
So against all odds, this movie.
What did it beat?
Slays.
What was it? It beat the record Memorial Day weekend. What was it? It was like
I think it was Shrek 2 that originally
Shrek 2.
That had the fallout for the second week.
Yeah,
But, as far as Memorial Day, I'm not quite sure.
That's crazy.
Wait,
but no,
he mean Puss in Boots?
yes, Puss in Boots. But yeah, no, I agree with you guys. I think it is an essentially perfect film. Like it's, I've described it. It's one of those movies you go to the movies and you're like, this is why movie theaters need to stick around, right? Like,
wow. Do you want to hear the biggest opening Memorial Day weekends of all time?
What?
Do it.
I'll give you the 10. Sorry, I don't want to draw this out too much.
No, please.
Lost World Jurassic Park at 10 for 90 million. Wow. That was its opening weekend.
Right.
Solo: A Star Wars Story at 9 with 103 million. The Hangover Part 2 for 103. X-Men: Days of Future Past 110 million. Aladdin, the new one.
Right.
116 million, almost 117. Fast and Furious 6, 117 million. X-Men: The Last Stand at number 4, 122, almost 123 million. Top 3. Number 3, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull at 127 million. And Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End with 140
That was
million.
the one I was thinking about, yeah.
Yeah. And Top Gun Maverick blew these guys out of the water. $160 million Memorial Day weekend. Granted, we're talking about 15 years later, so obviously inflation, and we're at like peak inflation right now, so that I'm sure plays into it slightly, but let's not deny the fact Tom Cruise is our greatest living movie star, and his name alone draws a crowd.
He's like the last one to do. The last.
I'd say he's the last living movie star, to be honest. Like real movie star.
That's right. I hope my wife's listening. This is our big argument. Is Tom Cruise is amazing.
Okay, so my girlfriend hates, she can hear me. My girlfriend does not like Tom Cruise. She's not a Tom Cruise fan. But it's funny because some of like her favorite movie of all time is Legend. And I know she like grew up with like, having I think a crush on Tom Cruise when she was a little kid. But like the thing is like you might feel however you feel about him in his private life, but you can't deny his movie. Like, man, like how does he not get you? Like those movies.
No, he's a good actor too. Like you watch him in this. And he's not playing another version. He's not playing like Ethan Hunt, right? He's playing this character. He's playing Maverick. Like this is Maverick 30 years later. Like this is exactly how you'd assume he would, become, even has that grin, that kind of really cocky attitude. Yeah. And I think people, a lot of the times when they see Tom Cruise or hear Tom Cruise, he's like the same, he's a different version of Tom Cruise, right? People are just like, hey, he's just Tom Cruise playing Tom Cruise. And
he's the couch jumper.
He's the couch jumper. But no, I don't think he has I'm going to say, I don't think he has the most depth of any actor ever, but I think he's a good actor. Like he can differentiate between the, when you're watching Ethan Hunt, when you're watching Maverick, when you're watching these other characters, when you're watching him in, Tropic Thunder, still one of my favorite performances of his. He's genius in that, but
what about Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah,
when you're watching him in that movie.
I thought it was great on every level. Like it was amazing.
So here's my thing about Top Gun Maverick is that I think that this movie, at its core, right? Like, sure, it's a movie about naval pilots, but I think at its real heart, this is not a movie about airplanes.
No.
This is a movie about Tom Cruise and his philosophy on filmmaking. So you have so take the plot of this film and follow me on this brief journey. So you've got Maverick, right? So let's talk about Top Gun Maverick.
Right.
So you have Maverick, the character. He's one of the best at what he does, and he's been doing it for decades, right? He's still flying airplanes, even though all of his he's so good, he's never stopped, even though he's had every reason to stop.
Right.
he's lost out on
I get
relationships,
where you're going.
and he's had all these guys that were with him who are either dead and gone, or they're retired, or they're not doing it anymore, and everyone's telling him like, hey, it's time to stop. It's time for you to hang up the pilot thing. Why aren't you an admiral? Why aren't you a 2-star captain or a 2-star admiral or whatever? And the thing is that he just loves being a pilot so much. His kind, these pilots, they're viewed as fossils at this point, right? These old guys. At this point, I mean, we got drones, we've got technology. Why aren't we just doing this stuff by committee at this point, right?
Right.
And we got newer, shinier versions of pilots and planes that can do these missions for us. They're kind of making his kind obsolete. Yet he's brought back to the same place where he was 30 years ago to teach a new generation the importance of the pilot in the box, right? That it's that human authenticity inside of the plane that can complete these impossible missions, right? No pun intended. And at the same time, he's seeing his old comrades come and go. In fact, he even is there for one of their funerals, right? He's watching them die. And he has this moment with Iceman, right? Where Iceman tells him to let go. And he says, I don't know how. He's like, it's not just what I am, it's who I am. Being a pilot, it's not just what I am, it's who I am. And he ends up at the end of the day, he can't simply teach these guys how to do it. He's got to teach them by showing them and leading them himself. And so he gets in the box himself and he leads this mission to success. That is Tom Cruise in a nutshell, in one single movie, and how he makes movies. He is of an old time that is leaving, right? At this point, we're making no knock against the MCU, no knock against DC and all these, but we are making movies and blockbusters by committee now. We're following new technology, and we're filming a lot of these things on green screen and CGI, whatever we can do to make everything look as cool as we can for as cheap as possible. And Tom Cruise says, not on my watch. I'm getting in these effing planes myself. I'm going to have these guys, these young kids, I'm going to teach them. I'm going to run them through Naval Flight Academy so that they know what these pilots go through. We're going to put them in the actual planes with actual cameras, and we're going to do all this stuff. You're going to watch these people hitting 10 Gs themselves. And he is making movies that no one else can. And it's not just because of what he is, it's who he is. And I think he said it best at Cannes when he got his special Palme d'Or award, where he was asked, why do you do this? Like, why are you still doing what you're doing? And he said, why did Gene Kelly dance? And to me, it is the best answer. And it's because Gene Kelly was put on this earth to dance.
Right.
And he was put on this earth to make these types of movies. And I love Tom Cruise for that. And I know it's not going to be forever, but I'm going to be there watching every single one of these until he's gone.
Absolutely. No, same. He's making movies that no one is making anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And, like you said, the MCU, not to knock on that. I'm a massive, I love the MCU.
Yeah.
But it is committee, right? So it is just kind of like they're just kind of, they just shoot up, it's a machine. It just,
and you watch these things kind of behind the scenes, and they're in a big soundstage with blue all over the place. And here you've got them on an actual carrier inside the planes with cameras in there. It's just completely opposite ends of the filmmaking spectrum.
Yeah.
It's insane. And I hate to say, like, obviously we need more original entertainment. And I hesitate to say that because obviously Top Gun's a sequel, but it doesn't feel like it is obviously a sequel. We know the original exists, but it doesn't feel like it feels like an original story, like an original blockbuster story that obviously didn't come out of nowhere. But you guys know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't
totally
sequel. Like, it feels like it's its own entity, it's its own thing.
He's also said in interviews, I think, that he's been approached like it's been 30-something years, 34 years since the first movie, and like countless times he's been approached with like ideas for the sequel. And he always turned it down because he was like, if that script isn't worth it, then I'm not interested. And I'm glad he held off. I think this was like kind of the perfect story to do this. And you couldn't have done this like 4 years after, back in 89 or something like that.
And he said, when he was on the red carpet at Cannes, they were asking him, this is the premiere of Maverick, and they were asking him, like, what's it like revisiting this? And he said, look, go back and watch the last 10 to 15 years of movies that I've made, and everything I've done has been in preparation for this. He's like, go back and look at American Made, and me flying that plane, and me, like, we were figuring out how to shoot these planes so that they would feel as authentic as possible. He's like, everything we've been doing for the last 10 years or so, me and Chris McQuarrie, is designed so that we could piece together how we wanted to or could make Top Gun Maverick. It's amazing. Awesome. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I completely agree. I think it's an incredible movie, and I'm glad it exists, and it's making a lot of money. And if you all haven't seen it yet, please go out and see it. Go check it out.
And if you can see it in IMAX, I'm telling you, it's a different experience. I've seen it twice. I've seen it in regular. I've seen it in IMAX. It's not even close. That IMAX is bananas.
We watched it in the RPX at the Regal. It's not IMAX, but it's
pretty close.
It's pretty close, and it was
in terms of audio for sure.
Yeah, you have to watch it at theaters. It's a big screen experience for sure.
For sure.
And of course, another big screen experience is Jurassic World Dominion. Go check it out this weekend. We got our tickets for Saturday morning.
I mean, are you excited for it?
I was, but again, listen, I'm one of those guys who's like, I'm gonna go make up my mind about this movie. I hear all the noise around it. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt.
This man's seen Morbius. He'll watch anything.
What's that?
I said, you've seen Morbius. You'll watch anything.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I didn't. Yeah. I'll wait. I'm gonna wait for Jurassic World. I mean, it's cool to see like Sam Neill come back and like Laura Dern come back. I think that's really cool. I don't know. I did not like the last movie or really even like the first of the new trilogy.
The last movie was good.
No one seems to be as good at failing up than Colin Trevorrow, who has not made a good movie since his debut.
Safety Not Guaranteed was incredible.
Safety Not Guaranteed was great. And every movie since then, in my opinion, has
did
been
he
bad.
also do The Last Jedi?
No, that was Ryan Johnson.
That was Ryan Johnson.
But he was
supposed to do the episode.
Trevor was supposed to do.
He was supposed to do 9.
Yeah,
9, that's right. But what was I going to say? Oh, and just real quick about Top Gun again, real quick. Like that's how you do a legacy sequel, right? Like you have the characters, like it's, you've seen all these. So I like to. I don't mean to bash down on Ghostbusters, and I loved Ghostbusters Afterlife. I thought it was great.
Go in on them. Go in on them.
But I just
the gloves off.
I just didn't. I don't feel like they utilized the original cast at all in any way I wanted to see them. Like I felt like it was wasted. I understand the story with, Spengler and all that stuff, and the family and everything. I understand that aspect of it, but it just felt like a waste. Like it felt like these characters were just there just to be like, hey, look who we still have,
I despise that third act.
Right. That third act was horrible.
I like the first almost all of it. And then right at the end, I go, wow, I hate this.
Same. Absolutely. But the movie was fine. It was good. But yeah,
so
Top Gun Maverick.
I know you're trying to end this show. What is it about? What is it about let's back out the legacy sequel aspect of this movie.
Right.
Why does it work so well as a legacy sequel?
I think because it doesn't. The characters, the way the character's written, isn't reliant on what happened before, if that makes sense, right? So all these things happen, but they don't just like. And yes, okay. A big part of the movie is him, the whole goose thing. It's still weighing on him. It's still wearing him down. But I feel like the way they approached it was different. Like it wasn't like, hey, remember this happened? Let's just dwell on this for 2 hours. It was the character we have. This is Maverick. This is him now, but he's still dealing with these things. And it wasn't just about that. It was about so much more than that. And him with the son and everything, I felt like that was a good anchor to it.
Yeah.
But that is a good question, though. Like, what?
I think there are some sequels that will like honestly. I think probably if you're gonna go down like the pantheon of great sequels, I would probably put on the opposite spectrum on the list of bad sequels. See, I feel like I'm gonna get shit for this too.
No.
Age of Ultron, wasn't a fan.
Let's go. Oh yes.
Yeah, so I that's
Go in.
probably one of my least favorite MCU movies.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's crazy what they did with Black Widow. They turned her into a damsel in distress. Like, what are you doing? The whole thing with her, the Hulk. Like they didn't know what to do with Thor. I feel like nobody knew what to do with Thor until we got Taika on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was that movie. I feel like it was just a mess, and I feel like they've tried to let's forget that happened, and they'll like make jokes about it, like sun's getting real low, big guy. You know what I mean? Like, but I just like it felt like we're making a sequel because we have to make a sequel, right? Like it just felt like it made it feel like Avengers was episodical as opposed to like the unnecessary story to tell. Like I felt like for Maverick, like this was absolutely like the next story that I wanted to hear. You could have put like 3 or 4 movies in between, right? And like have been doing Top Gun movies all this time. And I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that we've had this huge gap between that first movie and this movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think we need to do a whole episode on legacy sequels and why they work and why they don't. Because I feel like it's a great conversation to have.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about some of the best ones, Blade Runner 2049 is one that I think is maybe one of the best. What? Yes. You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, you love it. You should watch it. You'll really like it.
No, I need to really bad. This kid, every time we see it on like Netflix or something, he's like, let's watch Blade Runner. I was like, yeah, I'll watch it.
Oh, yeah. It's
Denny Villeneuve, man. He's so good.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you look at that movie. What's that?
What about Harrison Ford?
In Blade Runner?
In Blade Runner too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that both of these movies do is that it takes the spirit of some of the narratives previously and injects them into, and it touches on some of the themes of the previous movies in interesting ways, right? Like you have like allusions to the same kind of rivalry between Maverick and Iceman, between Hangman and Goose, but it's done in a different way that makes it clever, right? I think this movie does a good job of touching on some of the, or alluding to, or referencing some things that are kind of like hallmarks of Top Gun, right? We had like the offense defense football game, which was very clearly like an allusion to the volleyball game,
right? Exactly.
We had moments that kind of stand out to Maverick, right? Like seeing like Great Balls of Fire at the piano.
Oh, God.
And there's like all these little moments, right? But they all serve a greater purpose, which is that it serves Maverick as a character, right?
Right.
And that all these references to the past and all these things in the past are all about him and learning to let go of his guilt that he has about the Goose thing, which translates into, and I think that this is a very, very smart thing they did, is that the conflict between Maverick and Goose is not born out of the fact that Goose died, because he as a pilot would understand the situation, right? I think that Goose would very easily understand, especially as a pilot himself, Rooster would understand the what happened to his father as a pilot, right? But what they did was that because Goose died, his mother, Rooster's mom, made Maverick promise that he would not let Rooster into flight school. He didn't want him to be a pilot. And so he took on that role of keeping him out of flight school by pulling his papers. And that's where the conflict comes from. That to me is a genius play.
Absolutely.
You don't stay on the, you were there when my dad died and he's dead because of you. It's more, you held me back from following in my father's footsteps. And that is why I hate you.
I also love that whole scene too, where he's explaining to Jennifer Connelly's character and his mom made me promise. Well, why don't you explain to him that his mom said that? He was like, well, he's already going to hate me regardless. He's like, he shouldn't have to resent his mom for it too. Like, oh God, heartbreaking, beautifully done, really, really well thought out.
Yeah. And Maverick's a character who has carried the ire of others for so long, right? Like people just don't like him because he's cocky and he's great at what he does. He's the best. And so naturally people are going to hate him. So he's used to it. Right? So if this kid's going to hate anyone, I'd rather it be me than his mom.
Right. It's so sweet. That's so good. Also, the other performances aside from Tom Cruise, I know you mentioned John Hamm's performance, fantastic, really well done.
Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
He's
like
so
he
great.
held his own against like Tom Cruise, and I mean, Tom Cruise is very intimidating. Like, he gets that, and like, but John Hamm just like nailed it. Every scene he was in with him, he stole it. I thought.
Right. I think Miles did a great job too. Like, also how uncannily eerie, like how eerie it is, how much he looks like Anthony Edwards and Meg Ryan. Like, it's crazy. Because some people, like my girlfriend, was like, "What the hell?" Like, it's so freaky almost. But yeah, it's really cool.
Glenn Powell, I think, is to me one of the big standouts.
Mm-hmm.
He just plays such a good asshole. Like, he's so good at it. He's been good at it for a long time. I remember him. The first time I saw him was in Scream Queens, where he just plays that cocky, arrogant frat boy, and he is so good at playing that role.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it in such a way where he brings a level to the character where you're like, gosh, I hate you, but also I really like you. He's funny. And when he comes in and saves the day at the end, you're like, yes. It doesn't feel like a victory for a bad guy, because sometimes you can have like the inner fight, and like he comes in and saves, you're like, yeah, thanks for saving him, but I still don't like you because of everything that you've been doing and saying this whole film. But by the end, the way that he says like, give him hell before he goes on the mission, even though he wanted that role, he wanted to be the wingman. It's great. I think that he brings a great level to that character, and they wrote him well in order to serve that performance.
Absolutely, for sure. So yeah, guys, check out Top Gun. It's amazing. We all loved it.
We spoiled the whole movie. Go check out Top Gun.
Hey, watch Obi Wan. You're all caught up with Top Gun. Let's just have some fun. But so we do have a couple giveaways we're gonna do. Did we figure out how we want to?
I don't know who's still here in the chat, but if you guys are in the chat, you guys have a chance to win this. Some people were saying at the beginning, somebody said that they already had it.
So actually,
Christian,
what I'm thinking about doing is we'll announce a winner on Sunday, right? Give people a couple more days to comment, watch the video, all that stuff, and we'll announce the winners for the Pastrami Nation sandwich and the GI Joe set on Sunday.
Cool.
Pastrami Nation. So definitely subscribe if you don't like. If you haven't liked Pastrami Nation yet on Facebook, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. Please check us out. We'll be announcing a winner on Sunday. Brandon, where can people find you at? Where are your socials? What would you like to promote? You have anything you want to plug?
So we've got the podcast, the Cinemass podcast that I host. We're kind of few and far between episodes right now just because I've got so many other projects going on. I just finished my second short film, so that's kind of taken precedence. So
that's awesome.
Let's see. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at BrandonNerd12. I tweet about movies and, not surprisingly, Star Wars.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff.
And then you can also find me on Letterboxd, which is if you want to follow kind of my takes, or I log every single movie I watch. I leave a review and rating on every single movie I watch. And why can't I remember my handle on Letterboxd?
Dude, I don't know mine either. I have one too.
One quick second. It's at BrandoNerd12. So just Brandon ERD12.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm constantly watching movies and posting my reviews and stuff, and I engage with people when they comment too. So I love movies, and that's a great place to see kind of what I'm watching.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
And Christian, you're on your
Instagram,
Facebook,
TikTok. I am so not active as I should be. I posted my stories. If you guys follow me, I don't know. I'll post. My Instagram is mostly, I have two. Then you can see both of them here. Like Christian Recorder one is my professional one, and then
check out his artwork, man. It's amazing.
Thank you.
It's incredible. Yeah.
It's fan art. I literally do it for Instagram and no other reason. So
awesome.
I mostly do it to bully my students, because if I have time to do it, then you sure as hell have time to do your homework. So, but yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Kevin _Hoskinson, pretty much on all those. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming on and talking some Star Wars and Top Gun and Stranger Things and all kinds of cool stuff.
Anytime you want to talk Star Wars, I'm in.
Yeah,
Yes.
please. We're still gonna have our
shoot me a
we're
message.
still gonna have our Last Jedi showdown.
Yes.
Hey, time and place, baby. I'm here.
Yes. Thank you.
I got this poster here. I got the other one in the closet. I got the book on the table.
Dude,
I'm ready to go.
I think we're all on the same team when it comes to that. I think everybody here. Okay, we're all on the same side.
Us
Okay.
three are.
I keep messaging Kevin. I'm like, dude, set it up, man. I'm ready
we're
to
gonna
go,
make it
man.
happen.
Yes. Yes.
Remember, every Thursday night, every other next Thursday, we have a new episode of the Brick Therapy. Where we talk all about Lego, all about really, really cool stuff. There's been a lot of interesting announcements, and there's one set coming out in July that I cannot wait for, but we will talk about that on Thursday. I think
Yeah,
you know
I'm going to plug Christian's Instagram real quick. I'm looking at it right now. This is dope.
Dude,
this is great stuff.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, he's
Oh,
incredible. So
some great Blade Runner
next
stuff
Thursday.
here. Some What We Do in the Shadows, Mandalorian. It's good.
Hey,
Dude,
thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, and next week sometime we'll be dropping a Stranger Things episode of our paranormal podcast. So definitely look out for that. So, all right, you guys, have a good night and be safe and have a good weekend. Go watch Jurassic Park Dominion.
Yeah.
All righty. You guys have a good night.
Peace.
Bye.